Up Brock Purdy against Justin Herbert. We got Nick Bosa on the timeline today. Y'all hear about that right after this.
Let's go get him. Let's go get him today, man. Let's go. Hey, dominate on 3. 1, 2, 3, dominate.
Welcome back to another episode of Club Gene Sports. As you know, I'm here with my man, Josh Harper. You can definitely hear his son in the background. Excited for the 49ers finale, baby.
Oh, yeah. You can hear him in the background getting ready for the preseason finale, like you said. Let's do it, man. We ready. We're ready over here.
Man, a lot of things happened the past week. The Trey Lance situation, everything. Honestly, the 49ers, they give you the best conversation to talk about no matter what. Like, they're constantly in the news no matter what. First thing I think is pretty important. Everyone needs to go to your show. Make sure you guys go to the Josh Harper show. Make sure you guys are subscribing there, hitting that like button. But are you concerned about the Nick Bosa extension situation? Does that concern you? We're going into the third preseason game. He should have already been signed. What's going on there?
Yeah, man. Honestly, it's concerning to me because, you got Nick Bosa. He's the best defensive player in the league. You're supposed to do whatever it takes to get him here, right? So it's concerning to me. It's, what is it, 2 weeks, 1 week, a week and a half until, the regular season. And, he changes that defense. So, yeah, it's concerning. You need to get him out there. You need to get him some practice reps. Not that he needs it to, be physically in shape. But I was talking about this on another show, like, muscle injuries, pulls and tears and things like that. I think you can't just go from, working out hard to straight to the field and taking live reps. I think you have to build that up, build your muscle tolerance up and things like that. So that's my concern. I hope they get him going and get him signed quick because, the Niners are a different defense with him as any other defense would be. But yeah, just, to avoid any like muscle injuries and, any setbacks in that way. That's my real concern.
Yeah, and what's very concerning about it is we heard John Lynch go on record and saying it usually took him about 3 weeks as a player to ramp up for the season if he didn't practice throughout training camp or he didn't participate. And then you end up hearing during that same timeline, you hear no contract extension. And then during this wrong one. During this time, you do see John Lynch go on record and say he's concerned, like it's worrying him now, and how he's never had a contract situation like this. Now, I am concerned because from starting tomorrow or Sunday, you have about 15 days until the regular season. Now, with those 14 to 15 days, whatever you have, realistically, you're probably going to practice about 8 times, maybe 10 times in that timeline. And it's not a full practice. Some of those are going to be walkthroughs. Some of those are going to be situational team drills. So realistically, you're not getting Bosa the quality reps that he needs to ramp up. And that's where soft tissue injuries happen. Unfortunately, that's usually what happens with players who sit for a while and hold out. You tend to see soft tissue injuries. And that's a major concern. Are you concerned if, for example, if the 49ers do not have Nick Bosa, is it become this defense is no longer what it is? Does that concern you? What about Nick Bosa to this defense? Like, explain to us how valuable he is. Because obviously, defensive player of the year, you're extremely valuable. Like, there's no other way about it. But outside of the statistics, what does he bring?
Oh man, he brings one-on-one matchups for players like Armstead and Hargrave and then Drake Jackson and those guys. Without him, you can focus more so on a Hargrave or a Armstead. And he brings instant pressure to the quarterback. Like if you see Nick Bosa on the other side of the line, you you're looking his way. You're making sure, okay, as long as he doesn't get to me, I'm good, right? So he just plays mind games with the opposing team's quarterbacks, and and teams game plan for him. So without game planning for him, coaches have more time to game plan for another player, more so on like a Fred Warner, and things like that. So no, he changes the game in not just on the field, but off the field when it comes to game planning, and just playing that mental game with the quarterback, because we all know Nick Bosa is going to get back there. It's not a matter of if, it's when. So quarterbacks is always looking at that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, like you say, he provides one-on-ones for everyone else. Now, the mentorship, I think the mentorship as well is a major factor that's being missed. Drake Jackson was a second-year player who was supposed to come in and take over that role opposite of Nick Bosa. You got young guys like Robert Bill Jr. you just drafted. Now, the mentor role isn't there because when you're going through training camp, you have hours and hours of sitting there in film study, talking over stuff with guys. And you don't have that mentorship from Nick Bosa. Like, hey, instead of using a cross chop or a double swipe, use this instead. Use a spin move here. If you see the tackle drop step like this, react this way. So you lose that mentor factor as well. And like, you're not only losing the play on the field, it's the leader role, and he was taking over that role for Drake Jackson, trying to teach him things, even for the new guys, for Austin Bryant. I mean, a guy who Clean Farrell, guys who you're trying to develop into a starting caliber player to be on your roster, they could definitely learn from the best defensive player in the league. So I think Nick Bosa not being on this roster, not only does it hurt you defensively, I think it hurts you as an entire team because you're losing that leadership role. And I think, for me, the 49ers better figure it out fast, because if he starts to miss any game checks, I think that's where you could potentially see Nick Bosa. You'd be like, you know what? If you're not going to pay me and you're afraid to pay me guaranteed money, just trade me. Like,
Trade me.
and at that, do you think it could come to that point where Nick Bosa requests a trade?
I mean, it always is. It's always a possibility. We don't know if he likes being in California, if he likes actually playing for the Niners. I mean, we don't know. It's speculation, yeah, because they're good and he's good. He just won Defensive Player of the Year and things like that. But he might have a preference to place elsewhere, like maybe closer to his family. I don't know where his family is, but I just don't know his preferences, right? So that could be a situation where it's just like, you know what? I low-key didn't want to be here anyway, and now y'all playing with my contract, so just trade me. So I hope it doesn't come down to that. Like I said, it changes the whole defense and the outlook of the defense. But yeah, it's concerning to hear how John Lynch was talking and things like that. So yeah, I think it's concerning. It could come down to that. Like if it gets deep into game week, and he may be like, just trade me. So hopefully,
and if it comes down to that, I mean, that would be very concerning. And if he did want to go play closer to home, the team that would make the most sense would be the Jacksonville Jaguars or the Miami Dolphins. He's from Florida. He still lives there, trains there. So those would be the only two teams that would make sense, teams that are actually in the playoffs and can contend. Outside of that, it would have to be somewhere he feels like he could win a Super Bowl with and get paid at the same time. Now, to me, it's concerning, especially because the way John Lynch spoke, it didn't sound like they were that close. Like, it's like, oh, we'll get things done. We got to get on it fast. I'm like, wait, you should have been working fast like 3 weeks ago. Like, I'm very concerned. I don't think he'll get traded at all. I think he'll be a 49er for a long time. I think this should have been a lot easier contract to negotiate than it has been. I think he should have been signed a long time ago already. Does it make sense when the price tag is already set, especially him being the highest paid defense player ever? Like, he's going to be that guy being paid higher than Aaron Donald. I don't get what the 49ers are sitting on their hands for. Go pay Nick Bosa. I think they've waited way too long. You need to hurry up and pay him.
Right. And sometimes the Niners, they lowball you, right? That first offer, they're gonna lowball you. So I hope he didn't be like, that's disrespectful. Don't come with me with another offer like that. Something like that where the talk stalled, or the relationship starts to ruffle or something like that. But no, I'm concerned. they should have been had Bosa locked down, ready to go. Go ahead, take 2-3 weeks during camp to work out on your own. Come when you're ready. But this doesn't seem like that type of situation.
Absolutely doesn't. But 49ers have their preseason finale today. Big day for the 49ers and a lot of players on their roster to make a team. Now, the first quarterbacks on the field will definitely, I'm hoping Justin Herbert gets to play. Have not seen if the Los Angeles Chargers will play their starters. I'm expecting it. I'm expecting them to treat it as a dress rehearsal. You will have Brock Purdy versus Justin Herbert. What are we expecting to see from both of those quarterbacks, whether it's Brock Purdy flashing or Justin Herbert's amazing arm talent? What are we expecting to see from the quarterback competition or battle, I should say?
Well, I'll start with Herbert. We didn't really see much of like his downfield passing abilities last year. He was missing a lot of his downfield targets. I want to say like Mike Williams missed a lot of games, and they added that rookie the rookie receiver. So I want to see him display his arm talent. Throws down the field. Deep over routes, 15, 20-yard ends, things like that. Display your talent. All the weapons around you, they're healthy. They may not play more than just a series if they do play. So just display that. And then for Brock Purdy, continue to run that offense. Make everybody forget, that there's a quarterback situation going on in the media. That's a highly talked about topic right now. So make everybody forget that. Run the offense, go down there, get a scoring drive on your first and possibly only series if they do play. Hit the open guys. Do what you do. Run the offense, make it look smooth, and that's what I'm expecting to see from him.
Yeah, absolutely. So Justin Herbert is top 5, arguably top 5 quarterback in the NFL. Mm-hmm. So what you're going to see on the field against the 49ers starting defense, hopefully, is a test and to me, it might be a bigger concern because if I'm Nick Bosa and I'm seeing the 49ers defense get killed by Justin Herbert in the first drive, I'm looking at John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan and saying, my price tag just went up. Like, realistically, we just got done talking about Bosa, and, you're expecting Bosa to get paid. Justin Herbert, a phenomenal quarterback. I'm expecting him to test the 49ers deep. I want to see him with Quentin Johnson. I believe Mike Williams is back. I want to see the 49ers secondary get tested. I know it's been a secondary that we've talked about that has improved. Hey, can you guys the big thing last year was the deep ball. We got beat a few times on the deep ball. Can they prevent that? I want to see Quentin Johnson with Justin Herbert. Can you guys connect? They've been able to do a lot of things in training camp. I'm expecting Brock Purdy, like you said, to just continue running the offense. At the end of the day, we're not going to see what we see from Justin Herbert, you will not see from Brock Purdy. And what I mean by that is Justin Herbert is going to flash with his arm talent. He's going to flash with the rocket arm. Versus Brock Purdy's going to flash by running the offense. And people are going to take it out of context, like, oh my God, you're saying Brock Purdy's talent is nowhere near Justin Herbert. However, that does not mean Brock Purdy cannot be as good of a quarterback as Justin Herbert. As long as you stay within the offense and you run what you can control, you could be a really good quarterback for the 49ers. Now, the biggest issue is a lot of people are like, well, we want to see Brock Purdy go longer in a game. He only played one series last time. How much should Brock Purdy play this week?
I mean, it's the last preparation until it gets for real. So I would like to see not too much. The offense, they have a veteran offense. We know what to expect from that offense in total, like the whole offense in general. But Purdy is coming off an injury. I would like to see him get 2 series, whether no matter what, or just like a play count, like maybe just 20 plays, 15 plays, something like that. But I think they need it. But as a whole group, they don't, because they're a veteran group. They've played with each other before. There's not too many new faces on that offense. So I wouldn't be mad if they just got a series, just to see them get a feel for the game and just tighten some things up that they didn't do well last week, maybe that they talked about in meetings. But yeah, like a series 2.
I would like to see him go for a quarter, and the reason why I say a quarter because that's about 2 series roughly. possibly 3. Reason I want to see that is it allows you to see, and this is more so for a fan. Like, I don't think he needs to play that much because Kyle's already seen what he's seen, and the 49ers are operating in great faith that they believe he is their quarterback. So you don't have to, like, oh, let's just see that. It's more so for a fan perspective in the sense of I want to see him come out and let it rip more than he did last week. Instead of having 5 throws, I want to see him get 15 throws against a live defense. Bullets going to be flying. He's going to get hit. That's what I want to see. But now that's me being selfish. Right? As a fan, that's me being selfish because I want to see him check off all the boxes. How does his arm strength look in a full game setting? How does he test a really good defense like the Los Angeles Chargers? And also, I think it would be great preparation for the Pittsburgh Steelers because he's going against Derwin James. Hopefully, he starts a great safety, Minkah Fitzpatrick, the best safety in the NFL. It gives you that preparation. Okay, you're going to have Derwin James roaming around. Same exact thing Minkah Fitzpatrick's going to do. What can you do against Derwin James, and what can you not do against Derwin James? Because that's what's going to happen with Minkah Fitzpatrick as well. So it gives you the ability to go up against a really strong defense, good edge rushers, really good secondary. So I really hope he plays the first quarter. I doubt he does. But right after him, Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch confirmed. Quarterback 2 is Sam Darnold. Everyone was shocked by it. I certainly was. What are your thoughts on Sam Darnold being named quarterback 2? First of all, like that's interesting.
I was definitely shocked by it. Just because you have a kid who's talented, who has the arm talent, you don't need him to become something special right away because we have Purdy. That's the starting quarterback. So I feel like they had the ability to take their time with Trey Lance and let him be the QB2 and continue to work with him, let him work in practice with the twos, scout team, things like that. So I was shocked. So, we know what we have in Sam Darnold. We've seen 55 games. I don't really want to hear like, oh, he was with the Jets organization. Oh, he was with this organization. Like turnovers are turnovers, right? And I just feel like he's being held to a lower standard than a quarterback who's came in as a project, right? The Niners knew what they were working with, and what it was going to take for him to become what they drafted him to be. And I just feel like, this is them giving up on Trey Lance. I'm not saying start Trey Lance, but to have him as your number 3 quarterback could just diminish his confidence and just make him doubt himself. So I was shocked, and I know we know what we have in Sam Darnold, man. And another thing I keep hearing like his floor is higher. What floor have we seen?
His floor, his last game, he went 5 of 15 with 3 interceptions. Like, that's his floor. We've never seen Trey Lance do that. So, like, when people say the floor is higher, it confuses me. Like you said, like, what floor are we talking about, right? Mm-hmm. Now, with Sam, my first reaction was the 49ers botched this whole damn thing. Like, 100%, that was my first thought. Like, you got the opportunity in camp. Trey Lance looked a lot better, and that comes from a lot of people that were there. I know Eric Crocker said it, Jesse Naylor, a lot of the beat reporters. You were there. You said you saw a lot of things from Trey Lance that impressed you in the joint practice. And what the most interesting part is the way Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch handled Sam Darnold being named quarterback too. Like they were asked, or Kyle Shanahan was asked, hey, who's your quarterback 2 during the season? Are you going to announce one? He goes, yeah, we'll plan on announcing it after preseason, probably leading up to the first game of the season. Next day, this is leaked by Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport. Obviously, the 49ers or someone in the organization, whether it was a player's agent, whatever the case may be, leaked it. Now, the biggest concern is Sam Darnold is going to be relied on if anything happens with Brock Purdy in terms of injury. If he doesn't play well, that's who you go to. And we've seen what he's done in other organizations. Like you said, the interceptions are interceptions. You can't, just because you have a bad coaching staff, a bad whether you want to call it bad weapons around you, you still at the end of the day make the decision to throw the damn ball, whether you're accurate or not. That's your decision to throw the ball. So I think that's a major concern for the 49ers moving forward. And I thought for me, people were like, oh, the 49ers quarterback room was deep. They have Sam Darnold, Trey Lance. A wise coach once said, if you're labeling a quarterback room deep, that means you don't got a quarterback.
Right.
So it's a concern. But what are you expecting from Sam tonight?
So let me just go back really quick. Like Sam Darnold is okay. Never mind. I was gonna go because it's
go ahead,
man. Because I just don't get what we're all seeing. Like we're seeing. So if they're basing him off of this training camp, it sounds like he didn't win the job. Like from all the I mean, I'm not the head coach, but the head coach said Sam won the job. But from everybody that was watching practice, the 2 practices that I saw, it's not a lot. So you don't have to go off of the little 2 practices that I saw. But everybody else, like the beat writers and, other content creators that were at practice were saying like, Trey Lance is looking better than Sam Darnold. So my question is, was this truly a competition, or was once they signed Sam Darnold, did they promise him something behind the scenes? Like, hey, we're going to sign you regardless of what happens. If Purdy comes back, you're QB2. If he doesn't, you have a chance to start. You'll still be QB2, blah, 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 things like that. And if that's the case, I think Trey Lance needs to look at his agent and start to look for another agent.
I 100% said that to the day to my boy in the text message. I said, look, Trey Lance's agent did him dirty.
Yeah.
And the reason why I think that, and like, end of the day, he represents Sam Darnold too, so he got to keep Sam's best interest. But at the end of the day, your best interest should be for Trey Lance and Sam Darnold. And instead, he was like, you know what? Hey, Sam, I got you a job. Hey, Trey, I don't know what you're going to do. But then he left him in the situation instead of requesting a trade, maybe going public, like, hey, we want to be traded. I don't know. But, like, to me, I do agree with you on that point.
Yeah. And I mean, and it's like, it's easy. It makes sense, right? Because Sam Darnold, he's been around the league. There's not too many teams that's going to be like, man, yeah, let's go. I want Sam Darnold. I like his talent, right? But with Trey Lance, teams will say, I think I can work with that. I like his arm talent. He's a young kid. He hasn't played that much football, especially in these past 3 years. So let's trade for him. Let's see what we can work with. So it makes sense as an agent, but it just sounds like, I don't know, something fishy there. So I don't know.
Absolutely. And if I had to take a wild guess at it, I would definitely probably say I think Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, or whatever the case may be, whoever was making that decision, made the decision before they even signed Sam Darnold that they were giving up on Trey Lance. That's what it sounds like. I mean, you see it in Tim Kawakami's article. He talked about how they were getting ready to bring back Jimmy Garoppolo before his injury. So to me, they sounded like they had given up on Trey Lance after 3.5 starts. But even if you read the article that Tim Kawakami put out, he said that the 49ers were looking, they weren't excited about Trey Lance after his rookie season. So it's like, wait, what? You took a guy who you needed to develop, and you decided, like, you know what? Hey, after a few games, we're done. Let's wash our hands. Like, to me, that's the most insane thing I've seen from an organization. Like, and I think Louis Riddick said it best. And I'd have to find what he said. But as I find that, I want you to go ahead and tell us, what are you expecting from Sam Darnold tonight?
All right. So what I'm expecting from Sam Darnold, I want him to open it up a little more. Like, yes, you've cut down on your turnovers, which is really good. I hope that continues if we have to rely on you at some point. And history says we will need to. Hopefully not. I'm ready to ride with Purdy. But let it fly a little bit. Let us show us that arm talent that they're raving about. That Steve Young like arm talent and ability, right? And continue, like, give us some touchdown drives. Drive the team down the field. Get the offense together. Make sure everything is running fluid, kind of like how Purdy does. Purdy does it really good. So let's see it from you, right? You're the next in line if anything happens. So show us that you are a different quarterback. Prove us wrong. and lead the Niners to a couple of drives. I know he's going to get a lot more playing time. I'm thinking at least 2 quarters from Sam Darnold. So, put together some drives and, show us why you're QB2.
Now, what happens if Sam Darnold goes out there and takes a dump? Like, that's why I think naming the quarterback who won quarterback 2 job before the end of this preseason is interesting, because if Sam Darnold goes out there and takes a dump, like just shits the bed, you're kind of in a situation where like, God damn it. Now, that's what I'm gonna get. Like, now I do want Sam Darnold to let it rip more. I felt like he's been very conservative, trying not to make mistakes, trying to prove that, hey, I could be a game manager, Kyle. I could be the game manager you want. That's not what I want. That's not what Kyle wants. Not what not any 49ers fan wants at all. Like, what we want to see is a quarterback who isn't afraid to let that shit fly. As Eric Crocker would say, air that hoe out. That's what we want to see. You have Brandon Ayuk. You have Juwan Jennings. You have a lot of good receivers on that roster. Good tight ends. Let it rip. I'm tired of take the training wheels off, Kyle. Now you definitely didn't give training wheels to Trey Lance or Brock Purdy, but you have training wheels on Sam Darnold. Take them off. It's time. It's time to say, hey, you know what? I need you to start letting it rip. I need to see who you are. I mean, you already know who he is, obviously, if you name the quarterback too. But for me, I'm trying to see him just let it rip. And I felt like he's been afraid to do so because he's been making mistakes in training camp and stuff like that. But for some reason, I can't find the Louis Riddick thing. But essentially what he went on to say was the 49ers are making a mistake. He goes, you don't trade all those first-round picks and not have an answer for Trey Lance. Like, you don't know what he is, and you're getting rid of him. He goes, even though Brock Purdy did what Brock Purdy did, he goes, you still don't have an answer on Trey Lance. He goes, I would have rolled with Trey Lance and Brock Purdy competing. He goes, I would have never did the Sam Darnold move where Sam Darnold becomes QB2, because now, he goes, you have nothing to show for it. Yeah. He goes, at least if you know what Trey Lance is okay, cool, you're cutting ties with someone that isn't good. He goes, you can't say that about Trey Lance. Now, the Trey Lance situation comes in, and that's when we'll start talking about Trey Lance, right? Like, doesn't show up to camp on Wednesday because he was excused. But the 49ers essentially made him quarterback 3. They've been trying to trade him. Interesting situation. He's supposed to play tonight, according to Kyle Shanahan and Trey Lance. To me, what the most interesting things were Kyle Shanahan and and John Lynch both said they still believe in him. We still believe in him. He's a good quarterback. He's made great strides this year. If a quarterback made great strides, why are you making him your quarterback 3?
Yeah, it's beyond me. I don't get it. You have a veteran quarterback who's struggled throughout this league. He has arm talent. That's not deniable. Like, yes, he can make every throw. But we've seen what we have in him in this league, right? I mean, Kyle has shown he hasn't been able to develop a quarterback. They may fit into a system and be average, okay quarterback, but he's shown he hasn't been able to develop a quarterback. So if he's thinking he's going to develop Sam Darnold into something that he hasn't been, you're in for a rude awakening. At least you have Trey Lance, who hasn't played football. So with time, he can become, who they drafted him to be. And he could have been that second string quarterback, but making him your third string quarterback for a quarterback who Sam Darnold, and I mean, we've seen what he is for 55 games. Yes, I'm not denying the arm talent, but number 5, your third string quarterback, who's young, 23 years old, who doesn't have a lot of football experience. You have him back there to be your QB2, but they kicked him to the side, kicked him to the curb.
And to me, what's crazy about all this whole situation is the 49ers still wanting him to play tonight. I think, to me, so I tweeted out, I was like, I think if Trey Lance plays tonight, I think like you said, you mentioned earlier his agent, but I said it on Twitter, I said, I really think his agent and his team around him failed him if he plays tonight. And the reason is because you're playing for an organization that doesn't want anything to do with you anymore. They already told you are out the door. You have one foot out. We're just waiting for someone to say, hey, here's a 5th rounder, and you're gone. Like, that's essentially what they're going to do. If he plays tonight, I think it's a mistake, because if he risks injury for an organization that doesn't care about him, what's the purpose of playing? Do you think he should play tonight?
Man. So selfishly, I want to see him play. Just because I want him to have a hell of a game and kind of like a middle finger to you, Kyle. I want that type of game from him. But like I don't think the Niners are going to trade him. Like that's silly to trade a quarterback. You trade it for what 3 or 4 picks, first round picks, what is it, 2 first round or 3 first round, whatever,
3 first rounders.
round, 3 first round picks, and 3 years later you turn around and trade him for a 5th. Like that would be terrible, right? So I think they hold on to him. They see how this year plays out, and the injuries. The quarterback and Kyle Shanahan, they've been getting injured a lot. Since he's been a Niners coach. But yeah, I think he plays. I want to see him play. I think he should play, honestly, because he needs reps, and he doesn't have many reps. So every rep he can get, take it. It's football. People are going to get hurt. Hopefully he doesn't get hurt. Hopefully he doesn't mess anything up. If he had a trade, ready to go. But I think he needs the reps. So go play. Let it rip, man. You don't have nothing to lose, bro. So just go and let it rip. Send that middle finger, man.
Absolutely. As a fan of Trey Lance, I want the same thing. I want him to say, F you, Kyle, F you, John. This is what you're missing out on. Trade me already. Give yourself, as a fan of him, I want him to go out there and play and give himself a situation where he creates a trade market, right? Like right now, there's no trade market. Give a team a reason to trade for you tonight. But then as a person who is super pro player, always will be pro player over any organization, I'm like, Trey, don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't do it. Because if you get injured, they'll put you on the IR. They'll keep you on the IR. You ain't getting traded. You ain't going to have another opportunity for another, 3 years? And you might not even be in the league after next year if you get injured. So for me, I'm looking at it as, Trey, if you do it, ball out. Don't give them an opportunity to say, well, he's not good. Give them an opportunity to say, oh, shit, we made a mistake. Make them regret their decision. Mm-hmm. And I think you're right. I don't think the 49ers move him. Now, that also becomes a locker room situation. I could confirm with great knowledge, mm-hmm. some of the players in the locker room, it didn't sit right with them. Yeah. I could confirm that. And it's from someone that I trust really well. And I wouldn't say this if I couldn't confirm it 100%. Mm-hmm. It didn't sit right with them. Yeah,
and I mean, I believe it. I believe it, right? I mean, because Trey is not a weird type of, like, a quarterback that a players probably wouldn't like to be around or mess with. He seems like a really cool dude, easy to get along with, easy to to mingle with and things like that. So I can see he's a locker. He, like, the players in the locker room like him. So I can see talks going in the locker room, and you hear about how they did things like that. So yeah, I really believe it too.
And if you keep him around, now I wouldn't be surprised. I was listening to Grant Kahn's show on Wednesday when everything was announced. People in the chat are saying they're gonna boo Sam Darnold tonight. Ooh. I was like, what? Like, the fan base is upset because they feel lied to.
Yeah.
You were told that you had this great quarterback you drafted, and now you're like, hey, never mind, we don't have anyone. Mm-hmm. But besides all the quarterback talk, we did a good quarterback session for 30 minutes. I want to know what players are making the team tonight. That's the most important to me. You're as a player, you're as good as your weakest link. Mm-hmm. So you got to know what the back end of your roster is. The 49ers have guys like Cameron Latu, Ambry Thomas, who are stepping up the last games. What are drop some knowledge on everyone. What are some guys that need to make the roster and they have to showcase it tonight? Like, they're going to make the roster based off of tonight. Who was that?
I would say Cameron Latu needs it. He needs this game to prove, like, okay, I can be relied on to be, tight end 2 or tight end 3. I would say him. I would say Ambry Thomas. He's had a a pretty good camp from what I've heard from the games. He's had a pretty good preseason from the games that I watched. So Ambry Thomas, this is your night. Capitalize on the good offseason, the good training camp, preseason games that you had, and kind of put a nail in the coffin. Like, yes, I made the team. Him right there. And then I know he's a veteran. But Isaiah Oliver, like, he has to show us something. We haven't seen anything from him. Not his tackling ability, not his coverage skills. He's not always around the ball. Like, I'm not sure how much he played, but the only time I see Isaiah Oliver show up is when it's not good. So not to beat on him or anything, but have a good game. Make a pass breakup or two. Come up and force some stops. Some good tackles and things like that. So Isaiah Oliver, and then the other two, I'm gonna put them together. Because I don't think they both make the team. I don't know if one or the other makes the team, but Taylor Hawkins and Quintez Knight, show up. If it's not going to be for the Niners, it'll be for another team, because teams like to pick off the Niners players. So those two right there, I know one of them is going to make the roster, but both won't. So let's see.
Absolutely. I know some guys that I really like. I want them to make the roster. I think they can make the roster tonight is, like you said, Taylor Hawkins. I think this is an opportunity for him to showcase for the entire NFL. Make a play on special teams. Make a play the right way. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're going to make the back end of a roster, the right way to do it is on special teams. That's the dream for coaches. Like, damn, I got a player who could play special teams. And he could ball out at a position. I think, to me, that's the most important thing. Oh, there we got Eric Crocker in the house.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Hawk.
We got to get Croc on the show with us one of these days. So definitely got one of these Fridays, Croc.
Croc always welcome.
Of course, Croc's a good dude. But for me, what I think Hawkins could do, I love how he attacks the line of scrimmage fearless. I love how he shoots gaps. But at the end of the day, I think, for me, I keep saying it, I think he should make the roster over George Odom. He's a better safety than George Odom. He's just as good as him in special teams. That's someone I'm looking forward to make the roster. I hope Kalia Davis plays tonight. Same thing with Robert Beal. The reason why I want those two guys to play is we haven't really seen from them, and I think they could provide something on the 49ers. I want to see those two guys show up. Now, a player that I'm really excited to see tonight, because I'm expecting the Chargers to play some of their starters, is actually Colton McKivitz. I think this is a nice little test for Colton McKivitz. You're going to have, I believe, Khalil Mack still there. You got, pretty sure Bosa won't play because he doesn't normally play in preseason. And then you also have their rookie from USC, Tuli. I don't know how to say his last name, but it's from USC defensive end.
Right.
So you're gonna have a good couple of defensive ends going after Colton McKivitz. Hey, it's your time to shine. Give everyone confidence in you. I know people are going to be more confident on him in general. So I'm excited to see what happens. Is there anyone on offense that you're like, okay, they're a roster bubble, but they should make the team or they shouldn't make the team?
So my roster bubble is one of the running backs. So I would say Jordan Mason and Ty Davis-Price, depending on how the team feels about Elijah Mitchell. He's always hurt on and off, but it's tough. So is this team going to keep 4 or going to keep 3 and keep one of the running backs on practice squad, one of the younger running backs on practice squad? But yeah, my roster bubble is Ty Davis-Price. Like he's been running hard throughout preseason games, but his pass blocking has been terrible. Like not to bag on him or anything, but his pass blocking has been terrible. Like not even touching people sometimes and trying to cut. Like that's not good news for the quarterback. Somebody can land on the quarterback's legs or need something like that. So I want to see the Niners get put Ty Davis-Price in some more pass blocking situations and make him prove himself. Make him prove himself and make him force himself to create a roster spot for him. So
now I actually think both of those running backs are locks. And the reason is I think Kyle carries 4 running backs on his roster. I think he carries all 4 of those guys, especially because he knows what Jordan Mason is. And like you said, the risk of injury of Not only Elijah Mitchell, we've seen Christian McCaffrey go down. So you have to have a couple of guys who could be reliable. And I think in the run game, those two guys are reliable. Now, pass situations,
Yeah.
oh man, Ty Davis Price, he been rough. Like
Rough.
it ain't even like there's no nice way to put it. Like it's been terrible. Like there's straight up been terrible. Offensive line, like there's a couple of guys. Jalen Moore, I think he's a roster bubble guy. We heard Chris Forrester talk about how he needs to see more from Jalen Moore, and to me that might be a sign for Il Manning. Now I didn't think Il Manning would make the roster. I think the 49ers would go with Matt Pryor before they go Il Manning for some reason. It's just kind of how I see things in terms of what I saw in camp, how they were rotating the offensive linemen. It was Matt Pryor and Jalen Moore prior to anyone else. So I'm excited to see those guys go. I think one of them ends up making the roster. I don't know who it is. Now, Il Manning has put on some good film. Like his tape looks nice. So, but I also feel like he's one of those guys who, if you do cut, he would get claimed. He would not get claimed by anyone. Versus Jalen Moore would, because Jalen Moore is more looked at as a guard than a tackle. So some teams are gonna be like, you know what? Hey, they used him at tackle. He wasn't a good fit at tackle. We think he could play guard and plug him in at guard. He might be a little bit better due to his shorter arms and the physical traits. He think he'd be better off as a guard. So I'm curious to hear what you got to think about the O-line situation on who makes it for the last couple of roster spots there.
Yeah, so I do. I want to see McKivitz play a little more because I know they were rolling out away from him and quick passes. So we didn't really get to see what type of tackle he's going to be for this regular season. So I want to see him in some more pass protections where we see like it's him versus whoever it is on the other side of the ball. So I want to see him hold up his end on in this preseason game. And then I'm kind of different. I think Il Manning is going to make the team. I think he's going to make the team. I don't think they can cut him. If they cut him, I think somebody's going to pick him up and take a chance. Whether it's a team who's rebuilding, who's looking for a younger offensive lineman that they can maybe stash as like the 9th or 10th lineman on the depending on how many they hold on the 53 roster. Make him inactive. Just kind of stash him throughout the year. But yeah, Jalen Moore. I mean, he's been around the Niners for some time now, 3 or 4 years. And I just haven't really, I just haven't really seen anything. Maybe because they've always had him at tackle. Maybe they should move him to guard and give him a real chance. But I just don't see him making the team as a tackle. And he's had some injury problems as well. So the offensive lineman, the backup offensive lineman, it's going to be tough. I'm curious to see who's going to make it.
And that's definitely a concern for the backup offensive lineman. Like, people should be concerned because if anyone on the starting group goes down or they have to miss a game due to anything, it's a concern. Unfortunately, now I don't want anyone to get injured or anything. That's not what I'm saying. But the reason why I think Il Manning goes unclaimed is because he's a shorter arm length, 32 inches. Like his size as a tackle. The reality of him doing well against starters is a little bit lower than what he's showing against the third team and stuff like that. Now, what he's doing is pretty damn phenomenal.
Right.
He went up a couple times against Frank Clark last week. Looked pretty damn good. So it's like, hey, he's doing it against a starter in the league. I'd be interested to see if he makes the roster. I think the Niners would be more inclined to try to stash him on the practice squad somehow, give him a year of reps. Guys on the defensive line that I think, well, actually, I'll go tight end room that I think are on the bubble. I think Charlie Warner's not making this roster based on what I've seen throughout the entirety of training camp and preseason. I don't think Charlie Warner has done enough to be warranted a roster spot. Now, if Kyle goes, you know what, I need another tight end who could be a good run blocker, then I think you go Charlie Warner. But outside of that, I really don't think Charlie Warner is a guy who makes this roster. I think you might be more inclined to keep Cameron Latu, who's been solid blocker. Hasn't been really able to catch the ball, but either does Charlie Warner. So it's like, what are you really missing, right? Like, I'd rather keep the young guy than keep Charlie Warner, who also is a non-factor in the pass game. So I think Charlie Warner is a guy who has the biggest, in my opinion, on the roster, the biggest case to make tonight in order to make the 49ers roster.
I like that. I mean, I'm with you. I don't think Warner makes the roster. he looks crazy out there as a receiver. I mean, I want to say Trey Lance was out there throwing the ball one of the games. I forget, but yeah.
Last week when he had the touchdown.
Oh, that was him.
Yeah, that
Okay.
was Charlie. No, not Charlie Warner. Actually, no, I'm talking about that's Latu. My bad.
No,
I'm
I want to
mistaken.
say I seen Charlie Warner do like a whip route, and it just looked pretty crazy.
Oh, that actually was Trey Lance. That was week 1 against the Raiders, where he
Yeah,
instead of actually he like slowed up on the route and
on the
instead
route,
of
it made
yeah,
it look a little I'm not saying the throws on the money, but it made it look a little worse than what it was. But yeah, I think Charlie Warner's on the bubble, and I think it's time to move on from Dwelly. I think 88 has had a good camp. I think they keep him, right. What is his name? Fumugalu.
Fumogalu, he
Yeah,
had a really good camp and preseason.
yeah, he's had a really good camp in preseason. And then I think Latu. I mean, you have to make him your third tight end. He's a third rounder. You gotta give him longer than just a training camp to make that roster spot. So yeah, I think they keep those 3 and then move the other tight end to practice squad. The 7th rounder, 6th rounder.
Braden Willis.
Braden Willis, yeah.
I actually really like Braden Willis. I like how he moves. And I wonder if so. It was funny because the other day, me and my guy Rohan were talking on the podcast, and I was like, you know what? Watching Braden Willis, I think he should get more early reps. Like to me, I wonder if Kyle, like when Kyle was watching his film, was like, hey man, this guy actually moves kind of like a guy I used to coach. Kind of reminds me of Jordan Reed.
Yeah.
Like the way, and I was like, and when I told Rohan that, he was like, what the, like, yeah, he does. Like, he just looks like the way, I don't know what it is, like the way they run their route. It's just a fluid, like they're just naturally, they're athletes. Like they're natural. And it's probably because they were both really good basketball players. You could tell like they're basketball, like they played basketball. And to me, that's what I see from them. Like when Braden Willis is running routes, he ain't running routes. He's over there crossing people up. Like he's in and out crossover. And I know that's what receivers are taught for the most part, like in and out cross, kind of stuff they like to run. And I felt like, man, Braden Willis, I would like to see him make this roster. If it was me, if Kyle decides to keep 3 tight ends, I'm keeping George Kittle, Braden Willis, and Fumagalli. That's who I'm keeping.
Yeah, and that's what I want. I want to see Braden Willis play more because I've seen his skill set that that he can bring to this offense. But I'm just gonna take with what Kyle Shanahan is showing us. Right, he was showing us that Sam Darnold is quarterback too. He was showing us, but we just didn't want to admit it.
See,
right?
yeah, we don't want to see it.
So he's showing us Braden Willis is not getting that much run, and we're not seeing him catch any balls. So maybe he's showing us like Braden Willis is going to practice squad. Although I would like to see him make that roster because he brings a different element to the tight end group that none of the other tight ends have. So I want to see Braden Willis play some more. I want to see him ball out today.
Absolutely. That honestly, like I'm saying, like if Kyle's keeping 3, I think it's Kittle, Braden Willis, and Fumagalli. Now, if you keep 4, I think you're able to keep Cameron Latu, Braden Willis, and Fumagalli. I think Fumagalli, he's made a strong case to make this roster. Yeah. And it's interesting because everyone was like, oh, yeah, easily the 2 tight ends they drafted are making the roster. Everyone counted out Fumagalli, and he's looked really damn good. Interesting on what he does to make a case. Now, D-line, and I think that's probably the harder area because you have guys like Ty McGill. You have guys like Kerry Hyder. Is Kinlaw on the roster? Givens, with the way Marlon Davidson has played, I felt like Spencer Wade has played well. Like it's a really deep defensive line group, and in the sense of I don't think it's like when I say deep, I think they're all very close. I should say I shouldn't say like it's oh my god like this is gonna be you could plug in any of those guys and they start like that's not what I mean. I mean like they're very close to each other, and that's why I'm saying it's deep. Which of these guys doesn't make the roster, or should the 49ers potentially try to trade one of them?
So I think whoever they feel is their best run stopper is going to make the team in the interior line because they have a bunch of interior linemen that can rush the passer. So they may have to cut somebody that's better than somebody else that's going to make the team because they're just a better run stopper. Because I think I think this preseason they showed that they've been giving up a lot of big runs, right?
Way too many.
6 yards a carry. I want to say. So yeah, I think whoever their best run stopper is, and I think Ken Law can be that guy, but it's like sometimes he's in the backfield, and then the next 3 or 4 or 5 plays in a row, he's getting washed to the sideline. So like, who's their best run stopper? I don't know. Do they give up on Ken Law already? I don't know. I think he may make the team. But one of those back end guys like Davison, or he's a pass rusher too. Like, they have a lot of interior pass rush linemen, but who's gonna show that they stop the run the best?
And to me, that was a big concern. Like, and I've been concerned about that. Like, the 49ers defensive line room, it's a lot of good pass rushers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in the interior, but like, who's realistically, you bring in Javon Hargrave, great signing, but he's not a great run defender. So you're like hoping like, okay, well, hopefully him next to Nick Bosa and Armstead inside kind of cleans everything up. But for me, I think the best out of that group of run defenders is Khalil Davis. I think, but we haven't even seen him, so it's kind of like, how can I keep someone on the roster that I haven't even seen play a preseason game? Do I trust what he's done in training camp? But even then, he's been hurt in training camp, so it's like, all right, can I stash you on the practice squad and bring you back up after I put someone on the IR after the first day of roster cuts? So the way I'm looking at it is, I think Kerry Hyder's gone. I don't think Kerry Hyder's done enough throughout camp and preseason to be awarded a roster spot. And I think you got to earn those roster spots on the 49ers. Now, I understand Kerry Hyder could play outside, but I feel like Austin Bryant has done a better job. And I don't want to cut Robert Beal, because if you cut Robert Beal, he likely gets clean because he has the athletic ability and traits outside. So I see Kerry Hyder as a kind of like a dual inside-outside guy. Mm-hmm. So I likely cut him and go with Austin Bryant over him. So I don't see Hyder making the team. Kevin Givens, to be honest, I'm not keeping him on the roster.
He didn't have that good of a camp.
Didn't have a good camp. He's been terrible against the run since he's been with the 49ers. He gets washed to the sideline almost every run play. Like, he cannot go up against a double team. So the moment you see him on the field, it's like, all right, let's run the ball at him. We're getting 5 yards per carry whenever he's on the field. So I'm looking at him and I'm saying, you either got to trade him or cut him. Mm-hmm. And that leaves a spot open for either Ty McGill or Marlon Davis. And if I'm having to choose one of them, I'm going upside. I'm going Marlon Davis, former second rounder, still young, and trying to stash Ty McGill on the practice squad. I know the Niners signed him late last season, so you might be able to stash him on the practice squad. But he's had a good preseason, so you might be able to get Ty on someone else's team. So
yeah, and he came on strong last year too. I know they signed him late, but he came on strong last year and had finished the season on a pretty good note. So I don't know if he makes it. I don't know if he makes it back to the Niners practice squad. So
it's going to be hard, especially how his film last season was really good. Last week he had a sack, a couple pressures, looked really good. So there's a chance if the Niners keep 10, he might make it. But if they keep 9, it gets dicey. It's like, all right, who do you keep? Who do you stash? Like, who do you try to take to the practice squad? Linebackers, to me, is probably the hardest decision out of the entire roster. Like, that's where I'm like, I don't know. Like, who do you keep? Because I think the Niners usually keep 5 linebackers. Mm-hmm. Who do you keep?
Right. So that Sam position is so much like it's in the air. I don't think anybody has separated themselves from the group. So I would say, and I'm not saying Jalen Graham is a Sam. I think he's a middle linebacker. So mm-hmm. I think they keep Jalen Graham on the roster. But I don't know. They may go with for the other linebackers. They may go with Demetrius Flannigan-Fowles to start. I mean, he hasn't done anything special, but you can see his speed on the film. And then the ones behind him haven't really did much. Like I was expecting more from D Winters. And he hasn't really done much. I know he had a forced fumble or whatnot, and you can see his speed show up on film, but he just hasn't did too much. So I don't know, man. Owen Burke he's hurt right now, right?
Yeah, he's hurt.
He's hurt. And he's a special teams ace, so I don't know how they feel about him and him making the team. That linebacker position is hard, but it's easier for me to say who's for sure making the roster. Who I think for sure is making the roster. Of course, Fred. Of course,
Dre.
I think Jalen Graham makes the roster, and then after that, it's just a
Toss up.
It's a toss up. Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles has not showed me anything at all. Like I'm not comfortable going in saying like, yeah, he's our for sure starter. We're rocking with him. Let's go. So it's a toss up. Tonight. I want somebody to separate themselves. I know it's hard to do it in one game, but I want to see somebody separate themselves and say, y'all better give me a roster because this is who I am.
If I was the 49ers, what I would be doing is I understand Oren Burks is a special team ace, but I would be trying to see if I could trade him somewhere. Now, it sounds weird, but I think D. Winters and Jalen Graham could provide what he does on special teams. Like, even if it's just a little bit under what he does, like, you're still getting special teams value from those two guys. But they're also younger and have probably more upside as a linebacker duo or to replace Dre Greenlaw and at that Sam spot. My mic turned off.
Yeah.
So I think Jalen Graham is a true Mike. I don't see him as a Will or a Sam. I see him as a true Mike. So I think he's a very important role to this defense because there ain't no other true Mike on the roster. I think it's just him and Fred I think even Fred's not even a true Mike. I think he could play. If you were to put him at Will, he'd probably be even better than he is at Mike. So it's like realistically, wherever you put Jalen Graham is probably Mike. So I think he's a lock to make the roster. Now D. Winters is probably a better Will than he is a Mike. Can he play Sam? Yeah, because Sam role is you're kind of just scraping everything. So I think he could do that. For me, I'm trying to trade Oren Burks. So the reason why I would do that is because I don't think Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles is making my roster. And I would go Dre Greenlaw, Fred Warner, Jalen Graham, D. Winters, and I would keep McCrary Ball. Okay. And the reason why I would keep McCrary Ball is because on special teams, I think he's a really good special teamer. He has the speed. He has the ability to play that Sam role as well as the Will role. So you could put him either or, and he's a good linebacker. And I think he could replace Azeez Al-Shaair with that energy, that flying around mentality. I'm going to pop you in the mouth. So that's what I would try to do with the linebacker position. Now, it's a little bit harder. And like you said, with Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles, he hasn't shown me nothing.
Anything.
Like, it's concerning with how, like, to me, I'm watching the film like, hey, well, you got to attack the lineman. Like, you cannot just run sideways. Like, at some point, you got to understand you got to attack the lineman so your partner in crime could come and fill up and clean up. Like, he's been worrisome. My mic keep turning off. I might be touching it. It is. And I think D. Winters, I think his speed is great, but I think his play strength still isn't there. I think it's still at the college level, and I think one more year, and I think you'll see D. Winters' play strength go to another level, and I think that's where you'll see the jump. So that's why I want to keep him because I see the flashes. I see the ability. Now I think it's just getting him in an NFL weight room for over a year, and I think he'll be a damn good linebacker for the 49ers for years to come. I have to ask because secondary, I know we did talk Taylor Hawkins and stuff like that, but the corners, you're most likely keeping I'm like 99% sure Demo, Ward, Ambry Thomas. Those three are locks for the most part. Is what it sounds like coming from the 49ers. If they keep 5 or 6, or if they usually get 6 corners and then 4 safeties, what other 3 corners do you keep?
For sure, Womack. I just like what he's done in the preseason, and he's been this far away from completing the play. Like, he's always there. I know he got burnt by one of the Raider receivers who's actually really, really fast. So
Trey Tucker, he's 4.3 speed. That's serious speed.
Yeah, he's fast, and that's the only thing that I've seen from Womack that I was like, oh. But other than that, he's played well. You know, he almost had a pick 6 if he could have got his arm up and around the receiver. You know, he's there. You know, that's all you can ask for a backup corner is to be there, right? And then if he was making all the interceptions and getting his hands on the wall, and he'll be a starter and he'll be getting ready to get paid right now, right? So I like what I saw from Womack. So those 4, so the 2 you said, Demo, Charvarius Ward, Ambry, Womack, and then the fifth one, if they're keeping 5, I don't know. It's a toss up. And who brings special teams value to that group? And I'm not sure. We had 22 returning punts, and I don't know if he helped himself in that category. So I don't know. The fifth one is a toss up, and then so yeah, I don't. Who would you say? That fifth corner.
So I think they usually keep 6. I'm not sure if they keep 6 this year, but if they do,
Mhm.
I actually think Isaiah Oliver's a lock. And the reason why I think he's a lock is because what they paid him. I don't think they cut ties with him due to the amount they paid him. I think you kind of got to roll with it and be like, all right, well, at least next year the cap hit isn't as bad. I think if you cut him this year, it's like $3 million that you're eating. I don't see the Niners doing that, especially with their tight cap space situation that they have going on. So I would keep Charvarius Ward, Samuel Womack, Ambry Thomas, Denominal Lenore, Isaiah Oliver, and I think they actually keep 6. I think this is where you make the play for 6. If they keep the 6th one, it's a toss. I think, man. So I would say Quantrez Knight over Jameson. Because Quantrez Knight is playing that nickel role right now. So if he wasn't playing that nickel role, I would say Jameson. But right there you would have Charvarius Ward, Thomas. You got Denominal Lenore. Oh, I missed Womack. Never mind. Womack would be my 6th. That's a lock. I think he's a lock to make the roster. So yeah, those are.
And I think I agree with you with Oliver. He's a lock to. Well, I think he's a lock to make the team because I feel like they have a role for him. I believe they want him to guard the bigger tight ends and the pass catching tight ends and things like that because Demo's a smaller corner, and if he was happen to go against like a Travis Kelce or like a bigger tight end, a bigger type tight end, that'd be pretty tough. So I think they have a role for him, Isaiah Oliver, and maybe play him more on run like 3rd and 4s and 3rd and 3s, something like that. But yeah, they have a role for him. So I think you're right. He's a lot.
I think for me, I have to ask it. I don't want to ask it. I don't. Does Jake Moody make the roster?
Yeah. So this is how I'm thinking. So I think Jake Moody makes the roster because he's a 3rd rounder. He has had a shaky preseason. Not only the misses, but the makes look shaky too. But I'm celebrate all wins, and the makes. I'm taking all the makes. But the only reason why I say no is because this injury is coming up out of nowhere. I feel like, and is this a way for them to try to stash him on IR? That's what I'm thinking. That could be a possibility.
I agree with you. I think this is a way for them to be like, hey, he struggled. We don't want to cut him because he's a 3rd rounder. The groin injury people are underestimating the groin injury. It kept Zane Gonzalez out for the season as a kicker, especially to that kicking league. Jake Moody might be a stash on the IR unless it's like a very low grade groin injury. But groin injuries they keep coming back throughout the season. So it's like, do you risk losing a game or two because your kicker is struggling? Like, do you risk that? And I think you might be safer to go with Zane Gonzalez and give up that 7th round pick that they traded to Carolina for him. 7th round pick is a 7th round pick. Like, it's not really. I'd rather have the kicker who's reliable than a 7th round pick next year because this year is more important. So I think the way I look at it is, I don't think he's making the roster. I think he might be. Now, it depends on the injury. Like, if the injury is not serious, he'll make it because he's a 3rd round pick, and they're not going to be like, oh, we missed on him. They'll be like, you know what? He's a great kicker. Let's see what he can do in the regular season. But this injury, it's very concerning, man. It's very concerning.
It is, and I think this is the way that they stash him on practice squad. Because you're not about to like the shaky training camp that he's had, a 3rd rounder at that. Like it's still, I don't know, I don't get it. But a 3rd round kicker at that, and you're like this injury comes up out of nowhere, you can't cut him. So I think this is their way of saying, hey, I don't think you're ready yet. You got a super crazy leg, like yeah, we understand that, but maybe let's give you a full season to on IR to get healthy and learn the different hashes of the NFL and get your accuracy right and come back next camp ready to rock and roll. So I think that might be the case.
Absolutely, that'd be a smart thing to do with the young rookie, especially in a very high stress position. Now, I left the best position for last because I know you're a receiver, so I had to keep the best for last. Because what
One second,
receivers did
grab
they
my
keep?
charger.
Did they keep? Oh, you're good. You're good. So the Niners either keep 5 or 6 receivers. Now it's an obvious they keep Brandon Ayuk, Jawan Jennings, and Deebo Samuel. Those are automatic locks. Like there's no other way to put it. Now the rest of the receiving room, it's like Danny Gray's injured. You got Ray McLeod who's injured. Ronnie Bell looks like looks like he's gonna make the team. So it's a interesting receiving room because you have a lot of good dudes, but there's also a lot of injuries in the room. So it's like, who do you stash Danny Gray back on the IR and end his season because of the collarbone injury? Do you try to keep him on the regular roster and then stash him on IR as soon as you can, and then keep Chris Conley, who's had a great camp and had a good preseason? I'm just very curious. How would you construct this receiving room right now?
So the way me personally, I think Danny Gray has become expendable because we don't have Trey Lance. I think that's why they brought him in, somebody that could stretch the field,
Interesting.
and brought him for Trey Lance. So my personal gut feeling right now is Danny Gray is expendable. Conley is a veteran. They already have 3 dudes who, in the Niners' eyes, they're veterans. You have Deebo, you have Ayuk, you have Jennings. You have those 3. Those are your veterans. So I think Conley, he kind of misses out and he doesn't make the initial roster, but try to bring him back to practice squad. That way, if one of those 3 go down, he'll be the first one that they call up. Like, hey, come on, we need you. Let's go. I think Ronnie Bell has made a case for him to make the roster. He's a Shanahan type of receiver. He fits what the receiver room is like. Run after the catch, yak. And he showed that in preseason, right? So those 4, so Ronnie Bell, Jennings, Ayuk, Deebo, and then Ray McLeod has to make the roster, right? He has to be on the 53 before they put him on IR or PUP list or whatever it is, right? So Ray McLeod, and he's going to come back and he's going to be a big part of the offense and special teams. So that's 5. And then so that six receiver, I think it comes down to how do you feel about Danny Gray? Do you want to keep him around, even though we don't have a strong arm quarterback, or do you want to bring another vet? So, or do you want Conley to start? Do you want Conley to be on that 53 man roster, and just be there just in case? Have him play a few special teams just so he's not just taking up a roster spot. But yeah, I don't know. It just depends on how they feel about Danny Gray. My personal feeling, I would love for them to keep Danny Gray. I don't care if we don't have a strong arm quarterback, but he still brings an element to the Niners that they don't have. And that's somebody that can run past your whole defense. So
Yeah, absolutely. And when you look at Danny Gray, you're right. Like he was tied to Trey Lance, like that deep threat, the ability to get the ball downfield. But I feel like Brock Purdy isn't afraid to throw it out there. So it's like it at least gives you the element of taking the top off the defense and keeping them honest. So I think you could kind of make the argument like, all right, we probably should keep him due to the fact that you want the 49ers to have a deep threat. I agree with you on the top 3 actually. Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, and Juwan Jennings, those are like no-brainers. Now with Ronnie Bell, I think he should make the roster, but if he has another drop that turns into an interception, then it would kind of like plummet his case. Like for everything else he's done, it would plummet his case. He has 2 dropped passes that led to interceptions. So it's kind of like Kyle's biggest thing is like he hates turning the ball over, and if you're the reason you're turning the ball over, that'll immediately keep you from making any roster in the NFL, and like it'll end up being on the practice squad. So I'm interested to see what Ronnie Bell does. today because I feel like he's already made a strong case to make the roster, but I feel like he cannot afford to have any mistakes because he already has 2 big mistakes. Which even if so, I think that's like me trying to think like Kyle, but even if he does have a mistake, I'm still keeping him on the roster because I think
Right.
what he's able to provide to you to the roster is a little bit better than some of the other guys. So those are 4. I do agree with your top 4.
Mm.
Now for the 5th one, I probably go Danny Gray or Ray, obviously, Ray McCrowd, and then put him on IR or PUP. So that's 5. On the 6th, I probably go Danny Gray over Chris Conley, only because I want that element of speed on the roster, and I feel like you could also use him on an end around. I would try to give him the ball and kick returns again, but he might get injured again. So it's kind of like, damn, you got an opportunity to make a strong case for that, but he couldn't do that. So I'm excited to see what they do. I'm not a betting man, but if I had to guess, I would assume the 49ers lose this preseason game because – and the reason why I say that is because you're going to more likely see the Los Angeles Chargers quarterbacks who have been in the league for quite some time. They have been with their team for some time. So if you look at the Los Angeles Chargers, you're going to probably see Easton Stick from North Dakota State who's with them. He usually does really damn well in the preseason. So you'll probably see him get a lot of opportunity. But we're also talking about preseason, so I'm not really expecting. I'm not expecting anything, but I'm interested to actually see Max Duggan from TCU. He's with the Chargers, so I'm interested to see him as well.
Yeah, I forgot about him. He did what he did in college. So, I definitely want to see him and see what he's going to do against the backup corners who may be fighting for that 5th, 6th cornerback spot, and that fourth safety spot. So, yeah, I'm excited for that matchup.
Yeah, absolutely. Make sure you guys all go to Josh Harper's channel. Make sure you guys go follow him on Twitter, JHarp2. Anything else? Your water bottles are coming out soon. He does have.
Yep. So I just had my a meeting and this morning actually, and hopefully I'm trying to get them out before the season, so they're coming. And then I got some shot glasses on the way as well because we like to have fun still as with sports and things like that. So it's on the way. I hope you guys support it. But it's gonna be nice. It's gonna be nice. They're coming real soon.
Absolutely. You said absolutely. Let me know when those shot glasses drop.
Yeah.
I'll definitely buy me one of those. And then what I'll do, I even do it during our shows. I'll take a shot.
I'll take one with you.
I'll take a shot during the shows for one of those shot glasses. Man.
Let's do it.
That's what it's all about, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate everyone for tuning in. Make sure you guys go subscribe, hit that like button, and appreciate you for hopping on with me, Josh. To next Friday, we'll definitely be on again to talk 49er football. But thank y'all for tuning in.
Appreciate y'all.